Morning everyone, welcome back. In the last session we completed forms and forms validations in the Angular. In the Angular we can develop the forms in two ways. One is template driven approach, another one is reactive approach. Good. So as of now we covered several topics in the Angular, and we are going to see the very important topic today, that is what is Ajax, what is HTTP client, and REST calls. So we have to understand what is Ajax, what is the HTTP client, and what are REST calls. Alright, now let's understand what is Ajax. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is not a language, but it is a concept which is used to send the request from the browser to server and also get the response from the server to browser without reloading the web page in the browser. That means from the browser I want to send a request to the server. I want to get the response from the server without reloading the web pages. For that we are going to use Ajax engines. Ajax is not a language, but it is a concept that we are going to use at the front end. Ajax allows us to interact with the server and get some data from server without refreshing full web page. Let me show you one example in our website. Now if you go to Ashok website services mock interviews, here we have a drop down. Mentor experience is available in the drop down and fees is available. Whenever you select experience 0 to 3 years, fees coming as $17.99. When you select experience 3 to 6 years, fees is changing. So when you select it, fees is changing. So here when I am changing the value in the drop down, a request is going to the server and it is getting the response displaying to the client without reloading the web pages. For that purpose we are going to use Ajax engines. See here the beautiful demo. I'm changing the value. When I change the experience drop down value, fees is getting changed. So dynamically I'm loading the page. Dynamically I'm loading the fees value without reloading the web page. This is implemented by using Ajax engines. That is implemented by using Ajax engine. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is not a language, but it is a concept. It is used to send the request from browser to server and also get the response from server to browser without refreshing the web page. Ajax allows us to interact with the server and get some data from server without refreshing full web page. You can take another example for the Ajax is country, state, city drop-downs functionality. Country, state, city drop-downs functionality you can take as another example. Here we are going to take one country drop-down. All the country names will be displayed in the drop-down. But coming to state drop-down, initially in the state drop-down nothing will be displayed. In the city drop-down also nothing will be displayed. These drop-downs will be empty. Country drop-down, state drop-down, city drop-down. In the country drop-down values will be available. State drop-down will be empty by default. And similarly we will have city drop-down, that also will be empty by default. Now country, state, city, 3 drop-downs are available. Now in the country drop-down will display all the country names. Country drop-down will display all country names. country drop-down will display all country names. When we select a country name, based on the country name, we need to retrieve the states and we need to display. That means whenever user select a country drop-down option, based on the change happened here, based on the selected country, we need to get the states. A request will go to the server. Once a country, based on country selection, we should display states. We should display states belongs to that country. Okay? Ajax call required here. Ajax call required here. Once a state is selected, based on state selection, we should display cities belongs to that state. Ajax call required here. So loading the states and cities, we should load the states and cities without loading the web pages, without reloading the web page. We should load states and cities without reloading web page. We should load states and cities without reloading web page. Are you guys clear with my point? What is Ajax? Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is used to send a request to the server without reloading the web pages. What are the scenarios to go for Ajax request? When we will send a request to the server without reloading the web page? When we will send a request to the server without reloading the web pages? So this is one scenario. When you select a country drop-down will display all the country names. When you select the country name, immediately that country specific states will come. Server request will go to the server on change event. Now you see here, when you select the experience, Fizz is coming. It is on change event. When you change the experience, Ajax request is going to the server, immediately response is coming. Ajax request is going to the server and immediately response is coming. Like this is one scenario. Based on the experience of the person for the mock interview, we are loading the fees. Based on the person experience, we are loading the fees for the mock interview. That is one scenario. And the second scenario, country, state, city drop-downs functionality. So I hope you understood why we need to go for Ajax here. When user selected country, based on that country, we need to get the state. When user select a state, based on the state, we need to get the city here. This is one scenario. And another scenario, in a Gmail, unique email functionality. In registration form, when user enter email ID, checking that email ID is unique or not. Email will be available. When user enter a mail, we need to check that mail is unique or not immediately. In the registration form, when user enters email, we should check that email is unique or not in our application. So is that user trying to register with a unique email ID, or is that user registering with a duplicate mail ID? That we have to verify. So if you try to create an account in the Google, when you enter an email, Google will tell you your email is already taken by someone or your email is unique. That unique email validation also we need to do. When you are entering an email ID in the Google will refresh the web page, or Google will tell you the response without refreshing the web page. Google will refresh the web page, or Google will tell the response without refreshing the web page. Come on guys. Come on. Google will tell you whether that mail is unique or whether that mail is duplicate with refreshing or without refreshing the web pages. without refreshing the web pages immediately. When you enter your email ID, immediately Google will tell you that email is duplicate. Please choose unique email ID. It is not going to refresh the web page. Then in the front end, how it is displaying that it is duplicate? That means the front end is sending a request to the back end. The front end is sending a request to the back end application. That means a request is going to the server without refreshing the web page. So what is the technique they are using to send a request from the front end to back end without refreshing the web pages? Ajax is used in the front end. Ajax is used in the front end to send a request from front end to back end without refreshing the web page. Example, country, state, city drop downs functionality. Another example, Google Gmail registration, unique email functionality. Gmail registration, Gmail account creation, unique email check functionality. Another example, mock interviews, interview price based on experience in Ashok IT website. Here also we have implemented Ajax call. In IRCTC also you can see that kind of things. In the IRCTC also you can see whenever you select the data, based on the date they are going to display the trains. When you select business class, based on that the price is going to change. So many requirements will be available when you want to display the response without reloading the web pages. So how to send a request from front end to back end without reloading the web pages? Ajax engine is used. Can I say Ajax is one technology? No, Ajax is one concept. Ajax is one concept which is used to send the request from browser to server. So here it is my browser. Client side. Here it is, server is available. Our application is running inside the server. Browser will send a request to the server. What request, guys? This is a Ajax request. Request using Ajax. Now server is sending some response back to browser. Okay, here I'm getting some response back to server. In between we are going to use Ajax engine. Ajax engine used at the client side to send the request to the server without reloading the web page. Ajax used at client side. Ajax used at client side to send request to server without reloading web page. Ajax will send only required data to server. No need to submit the complete form data. Ajax will send only required data to the server. Ajax is fast in execution. Less burden on the browser. And less burden on the server, because Ajax is not submitting the entire page to the server. Ajax executes faster. Less burden on the browser and server. Better user experience. So user will not feel that a request is going. Better user experience will be available. User experience will be available when you go for Ajax. Are you guys able to understand? Are you guys able to understand? What is Ajax? Are you guys able to understand what is Ajax? Yes, so please read these points about Ajax. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is not a language, but it is a concept which is used to send a request from browser to server and also get the response from server to browser without refreshing the web page in the browser. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is not a language, but it is a concept which is used to send the request from browser to server and also get the response from server to browser without refreshing the web page in the browser. Ajax allows us to interact with the server and get some data from server without refreshing full web page. What are the advantages of the Ajax? Ajax will execute faster, less burden on the browser and server, and better user experience. Alright, types of Ajax requests. Types of Ajax requests. We will send a GET request using Ajax. We will send a POST request using Ajax. We will use a PUT request, DELETE request. That means the server will expect to GET, POST, PUT, DELETE requests, right? HTTP requests will be available in the backend. Backend API will be available with the HTTP methods. GET request. When we will send a GET request is used to get the data from the server. GET request is used to get the data from the server. POST request is used to insert the data to the server. PUT request is used to update the data on the server. DELETE request is used to delete the data from the server. GET is used to retrieve the data from the server. POST is used to insert the data to the server. PUT is used to update the data on the server. DELETE is used to delete the data from the server. Now, here guys, in the Angular, if you want to work with Ajax, then there is a package available which is called HTTP package. Angular common HTTP package provided necessary services to send Ajax request to server and get Ajax response from the server. If we want to send Ajax request, we will import and inject HTTP client. Using this HTTP client, we can send Ajax request to the server. Okay. Now in the Angular, there is a class available which is called HTTP client. By using this HTTP client, we can send Ajax request to the server. So this HTTP client class available in which package? This HTTP client is available inside HTTP package, Angular common HTTP package. Asynchronous request means it is going to send the request to the server and it will not wait for the response. Ajax is asynchronous. It will send a request, it will not wait for the response. When the response comes, it is going to handle that. That is called asynchronous. Alright. Now, how to work with Ajax in the Angular? How to work with Ajax in the Angular? How to use Ajax in the Angular? How to use Ajax in Angular? Can you tell me how to use Ajax in the Angular? In the Angular, there is a class called HTTP client class is available. In the Angular, there is a class called HTTP client class is available. Using this HTTP client, we can send Ajax request to the server. We can send a Ajax request to the server. Are you clear with these 2 points? How to use Ajax in the Angular? Angular common HTTP package provided necessary services to send Ajax request to server and get Ajax response from the server. If we want to send Ajax request, we will import and inject HTTP client. Using this HTTP client, we can send Ajax request to the server. So, Ajax engine. How we are using this Ajax engine? With the help of HTTP. With the help of HTTP client. HTTP client is available. Using that HTTP client, we can send the request to the server and we can get the response from the server. In Angular, HTTP client is used to send Ajax request. In Angular, HTTP client is used to work with Ajax. HTTP client available in Angular common HTTP package is available in the Angular common HTTP package. So by using this HTTP client, we can make a request to the server and get the response from the server by using Ajax. Okay. Ajax is asynchronous. As the definition itself is there. Ajax is asynchronous. Asynchronous means it is going to send a request to the server and it will not wait for the response. Asynchronous is JavaScript and XML. Async, JavaScript and XML. That is the full form of the Ajax. Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript XML. Ajax used at client side to send the request to server without reloading the web page. Ajax will send only required data to server. Ajax will send only required data to the server. Ajax is fast in execution. Ajax will not keep the burden on the servers and burden on the clients. Ajax will give better user experience. How to use the Ajax in the Angular? In order to use the Ajax in the Angular, we are going to use HTTP client. HTTP client is used to work with Ajax. HTTP client available in Angular common HTTP package. Very good. Now guys, here I have given some syntax for you. How to send a GET request using Ajax with the HTTP. Sending GET request to server using HTTP client. How to use the HTTP client to send a GET request to the server. How to send a HTTP request to the client server using HTTP client. So how we are using HTTP client in the Angular. Sending a put request using HTTP client. Sending a delete request to using HTTP client. So what type of request you want to do, for that methods are available. If you want to send a GET request to the server, there is a GET method available. HTTP.GET method available to send a GET request. If you want to send a POST request, there is a POST method available. If you want to send a PUT request, there is a PUT method available. To send a delete request, there is a delete method available. Okay. So for every request we are having necessary methods here. For every request we are having necessary methods here. Get HTTP.get, HTTP.post, HTTP.put, HTTP.delete, like this. Here I have given you example REST API integration with Angular UI. How to integrate our REST API with Angular UI application. That means front-end back-end integration. Front-end and back-end integration that we need to understand. So clearly I have given the example. How can we integrate the front-end and back-end? Okay, let's find. Now, so with this you got the clarity. HTTP client is available to integrate the front-end and back-end. Now guys, see, I have a requirement here. I'm going to develop one REST API now. It's just a welcome message. Welcome REST API. Spring Boot welcome API. Spring Boot welcome API. For basic understanding purpose, I'm going to develop Spring Boot welcome API. Spring Boot welcome API. This Spring Boot welcome API contains /get request, which is a /welcome. There is a get request method. /welcome URL pattern is available. So it is going to give me response, welcome message. It is going to give me a welcome message. This is my REST API. I will develop this REST API now. And I want one Angular application to be developed. This is my front-end application. This is my front-end application. REST API is a back-end application. Play the response here. So when I click this, when I click the get message button, when I click the get is Spring Boot REST API. Front-end application is Angular. Front-end application is back-end application is Spring Boot REST API. Front-end application is Angular. Front-end back-end integration. Front-end back-end integration. Front-end application, front-end app should interact with the backend. Should interact with the backend application. Backend application. When we click get message button, when we click get message button, when I click get message button, it should access backend application and get the response and display response in front end. Are you able to understand the requirement now? Are you able to understand my requirement now? It's a very simple requirement I have given, guys. Very simple requirement I have given. So I want you to tell you how to integrate the front end and back end. I want to tell you how to integrate the front end and back end. Okay. Backend in the real time also, applications will be available like this. Backend applications will be developed by using REST APIs. Front-end application is developed by using Angular. Now, front-end application should communicate with the backend application. Now, my requirement is, I want to display one button in the front end. I want to display one button in the front end. When I click that button, it should access the response from the backend REST API and it display the response at the front end. When I click that button, when we click get message button, it should access the backend application and get the response and display the response in the front end. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand? Right. Can we start the development for this? Can we start the development? So what we need to develop first? Directly front end, or first we need to develop the back end? Directly front end, or first we need to develop the REST API? First we need to develop the REST API. Okay. First to develop a backend application. Now, guys, see here, I'm going to create one simple REST API. I'm using Spring Tool Suite IDE. File, new. Let me switch my workspace. First, I'm going to create the REST API. Then I will test my REST API. Then I will develop a front end. Then I will integrate the front end with the back end by using HTTP client. HTTP client available in which package? HTTP client available in which package, guys? Come on. HTTP common. Angular common HTTP. It is available in a package. So we need to import the HTTP client package. We need to import HTTP client package. We need to import HTTP client package. Yeah, it is ready. It is ready. Let's create new project. I'm going to create a Spring Boot project. Spring Starter project. Click on next. Click on next. You can select your project details. What is the name of the project you want? So I want to create a Spring Boot Welcome API. I simply want to create the project as a Spring Boot Welcome API. It is going to give me just one welcome message. Spring Boot Welcome API. Maven project. Packaging type as the jar. Version 8. Language Java. Group ID in Ashok IT. Artifact ID I am giving Spring Boot Welcome API. And in Ashok IT is the package. Next, Spring Web, Spring Dev Tools. Spring Web dependency I am using. To develop a REST API, we need a web starter. And a Dev Tools dependency I am using to restart the server. Click on next, click on finish. Yes, my project is created, guys. The project is created. Go to pom.xml. See the dependencies we have added. Two dependencies we have added. One is web starter. Second one is dev tools. Good. Next, here, go to Java source folder. Go to Java source folder and create REST controller. Create new class as a REST controller. I'm keeping that in the REST package. I'm keeping this as welcome REST controller. Keeping this as a welcome REST controller. Okay. Next, how can we represent this class as a REST controller? To represent this class as a REST controller, we are using @REST controller annotation. To represent this class as a REST controller, we are using @REST controller annotation. Got it? Now, I'm writing one simple method here. I'm writing one simple method, public string welcome message, which will return welcome to Ashok IT. Which will return welcome to Ashok IT. This method I will bind to one get request @get mapping /welcome. So my REST API is ready. My REST API is ready. Which is my REST API is ready. REST controller, welcome to REST controller. Here I am having a get mapping annotation. Get mapping annotation, which is having /welcome. Which is having /welcome. Public string welcome message return welcome to Ashok IT. Now let's run this application and test it. Run this application as a Spring Boot application, and let's try to test this application from the browser. Let's go to browser, localhost colon 8080/welcome. Am I getting the response from the REST API? Is my REST API ready? Guys, is my REST API ready? Come on. Is my REST API is ready or not? So with this our backend application is ready. With this our backend application is ready. Okay. Now can we build front end for this? Can we build front end for this? Yes, let's build front end for this. Angular workspace. Let's open VS Code from here. Let me open my VS Code IDE from here. Yes, so tell me, what is the command? What is the command to create Angular project? What is the command to create the Angular project now? Ng new app. Okay, so Spring Boot welcome app UI. Spring Boot welcome application UI project I am creating. Spring Boot welcome app UI. Routing I don't need because just one button I want. CSS. Spring Boot welcome application UI. Spring Boot welcome application UI is there, so I don't need that routing part. Application is creating. Yeah, application is ready. I have not chosen routing. Routing is not required because just it is a button. Okay. Now cd space Spring Boot welcome API. Okay, fine. Application is ready, guys. Spring Boot welcome API. Application is ready. In this, we will have a app component. App component is having so much logic. I will remove here. I want to display just one button there. Okay. Now see here. I just want to display one button. Okay. I'm writing a logic for that button. Display. Just Spring Boot REST API plus Angular integration. Input type is equal to button. Value is equal to get data. Just to run this application, ng-serve :open. In the presentation logic, I just have one button. There is no action for the button also. I just have one button. There is no action for the button also. Now, application started. Can you see? Button is available. If I click this button, anything is happening now. When I click this button, anything happening? Is there any action for the button? Nothing is happening. Just one empty button is available. There is no action for the button. How to add the action for the button? Can I add click function? Yes, I can write a function get message. Here. Click is equal to get message. In my component class, I can write one function. Get message. Here I am storing message is equal to empty. Here I am writing this dot message is equal to good morning. I am writing one message here. Can I access this message? By using interpolation? Can I access that message by using interpolation? Now, what I am doing here is In my front end, I have taken one button. For the button I have binded, I have done event binding. Value is equal to get data. Button is displaying with get data. When I click this button, I want to call this function get message. Get message function is initializing the message variable. That message variable I am using through interpolation. Now run this application. Now run this application. Yes, get data is there. Click on this. Am I getting good morning? Am I getting good morning? Now tell me, so are we able to give event for the button? Are we able to give some action for the button? Yes, we are able to give some action for the button. So what is the action I have given? Whenever that button is clicked, some function should call. Whenever the button is clicked, some function should call. When I click that button, function is going to call. That function is initializing the message variable. Message variable I'm accessing by using interpolation. But now message is coming from where? Message is hard coded here. But actually I want to get the message from Spring Boot. I want to get the message from Spring Boot. Okay. Now tell me, so in order to access the message from the Spring Boot, we need to integrate the front end and back end or not? We need to integrate the front end and back end. Okay. Now, so we need to do the integration between the front end and back end. In order to integrate the front end and back end, we need a HTTP client. We need a HTTP client. In the Angular backend REST API calls, we are going to write in the component class, or we need to write them in the service class. REST calls logic we will write in the service class, or where we will do in the service class. So first we need to import HTTP client. HTTP client should be imported first. HTTP client is available. HTTP client is available in Angular common HTTP package. Angular common HTTP package. Now let's import it. HTTP client I have imported. Now along with this client we need to import observable also. Along with this client we need to import the observable also in order to make those calls. Observable from RxJS we are going to import this observable. Now in the app module I'm importing HTTP. Sorry, observable is not required here. It is required in the service. So here I have imported HTTP client. I have imported HTTP client in the app module. Okay, fine. Component is available. Component is having a message variable, and app module is importing HTTP client. Now I want to create a service layer, guys. Can you tell me how can I create a service? Can you tell me how can I create a service? ng generate service name. ng generate service welcome. I'm creating one welcome service. Now you see welcome service is created. So can you tell me what is the URL of our REST API? Can you tell me what is the URL of our REST API? REST private URL. That is my base URL. What is my base URL? http://8080/welcome. Can I say this is my REST API URL? Yes, that is my REST API URL. Service class should talk to backend by using HTTP client. So let's inject HTTP client here. Let's inject the HTTP client into service. Service should talk to the backend. That's why inside the service I'm injecting HTTP client package. First I have created a service class. Inside the service class I have taken my base URL. In that service class constructor I have injected HTTP client. HTTP client is used to send the request to the servers based on the given URL. Now let me write one method. Get welcome message. Inside the service layer I'm writing one method called get welcome message. Do I need to send any input for the server? Or I just need to get that response from the server? I no need to send any input to the server. I just need to get the response from the server. So my method don't need any parameter. In the observable, I'm going to specify that object. That means what response I'm going to get. Observable I'm using here to specify representation of any values. A function. See, the observable is what? It is used to return some value. A representation of any set of values over any amount of time. This is the most basic building block of RxJS. Whenever I call this function, my function will not return the response immediately. My function will wait for the API response. So this method is going to make a request to this REST API. When I make a call, REST API will give the response immediately. A REST API will take some time to give the response. REST API will give the response immediately. A REST API will take some time to give the some time. REST API will take some time. So here, my function should wait for that response. That's why we are writing a observable. It is going to take the response given by the server and it is going to return that response. Okay. Here I have the URL. I want to send a GET request. I have a client. I have the URL. Now what I will do in this function, return this dot HTTP client dot get this dot HTTP client dot get of object type of URL. What is that? Base URL. This dot base URL we are going to set. That's it. Okay. Or you can specify observable of string also. We are going to get the string as a response from that. Server is going to send the response as a string value, observable of string. This is the line which is making a request to the backend REST API. Inside the service class, I have taken the URL of the backend REST API and I have injected HTTP client object into my service. Using that HTTP client, I'm sending a GET request to the server. That means without reloading the web page, GET request will be sent to the server. That means internally, this HTTP client is using Ajax. Okay, fine. So with this our service is ready. Now look at the code available in the service. I have written this file 4 lines, guys. Taken a variable to store my backend application URL. Inside the service class constructor, I have injected a HTTP client. I have written one function. That function is going to call the backend. It is going to send a HTTP GET request to the backend and return whatever the response comes from the backend. Now, this function I need to call in the component. Class. Okay. This function I need to call in the component class. Let's inject the service into component. How can we inject the service into component? Constructor. How to inject the service into component? Using constructor. Using constructor. Private service. What is the service name? Welcome service. Constructor, private service, welcome service. I have injected the service object here. Then what I will do here, inside this method, instead of hard coding the data, I will call the service method. This dot service dot get welcome message dot subscribe. This dot message dot subscribe. I'm going to subscribe to the response which is given by this service method. I'm going to subscribe to the response which is given by service method. Inside the subscribe method, whatever the data we are getting, that data we are going to store. This dot message is equal to data. This dot message is equal to data. This dot service of get welcome message dot subscribe. Now let me write this line once again, guys. Observe carefully. I have a get welcome message method. Here app component available, app component having a variable. This variable is used in the template for interpolation. I need to store API response into this variable. My backend REST API giving some response. Backend REST API response I want to store in this variable so that this variable can display the data in the front end. So now how can I call the backend? Already service class having a logic to call the backend. See the service already have the logic to call the backend. Client dot get of this URL. So it is going to send a get request to this URL. Now how to call the service layer method? Service object is already injected into the component using constructor. Now here I am going to call this dot service dot get welcome message method. I'm going to call this message subscribe, because response will not come immediately. We have to wait for it. Dot subscribe. It is going to give us the data. That data we are going to store into our variable. So this is used to call our service class function. Get a message available here in the component. Get a message is calling service class function. Service class function is calling HTTP client.get. It is sending a request to the backend. So with this, are we ready? Now see from the front end side. In the front end I have a button. Called get data button. For the get data button, we have done the event binding. So for this button I have given an event called click event. In this click event we have get message call. So whenever this button is clicked, it should call get message function. This template belongs to a component. In that component we have get message function. So when the button is clicked, get message function will be called. Get message function is calling service class function and initializing the message variable with the data given by the service class. What is service class function doing? Service class function is calling HTTP client.get and returning the response. So from the template we are calling the component function. From the component we are calling the service function. From the service we are calling the REST API. Okay, now let's go to our diagram. Previously I have given how the front end and back end will be integrated, how Angular application architecture will be available. I have given an example. Now see here. Are we able to do the same thing now? Are we able to implement this diagram? Front end, there is a button. When you click the button in the front end, it is going to call component function. Component function will call service function. Service will call backend API using HTTP client. Look at the diagram, you will understand. Look at the diagram. So this is client side also we are following. In this client side also we are following MVC architecture. Modal view controller. Right. Now let's run this and see, is it working successfully or not. It backend is working. First check it, backend is working. Yes, backend is working successfully. ng serve --open. ng serve --. It is failed. There is a problem. In the app module, we have, okay, import is incorrect, guys. It is HTTP client module. It is HTTP client module, not HTTP client. HTTP client is outdated, I think so. They have given HTTP client module. Now it is compiled successfully. See here, ng serve open. Instead of HTTP client, we are using HTTP client module, guys. Application running successfully. So when I click on get data, what should happen? When I click on get data, what should happen? When I click on get data, what should happen?